What's going on, everyone? Even though there's no one in here yet. Just gonna do a quick live. Let a few people get in here. Pretty funny. I'm using a vice. What's up? What's up? My two favorite people on YouTube. How we doing? I got a problem. And I have a solution. There is a problem, but I have a solution. Preach. Let's see if a few more people come in here. You doing good, Cheryl? Life is being stubborn. I'm stubborn does not get you anywhere. Everybody's stubborn, right? Are you stubborn drift sometimes? Yeah. Like I have quick solutions for a lot of problems that I make. Yeah, stubbornness. It's a problem men deal with, and women, both. Right now I'm just doing a little. I collect all my dandruff from these locks every day, and then I feed them to my worm bins. Yeah, I'm stubborn way too often. Just to see if a few more people. It's only been 2 minutes. It sometimes takes a couple minutes for people to see it. Maybe shoot for 5. Essentially, I'm not like they're already fed. This is before I have a problem. It's not a problem. Do some research on it your own. It doesn't really affect anything other than maybe food consumption, stuff like that. So I'll show you a bin, and then you guys tell me if you can see the problem in a second. But I have the solution, so it's super simple. And it's probably because I don't know why it's happening technically. There could be a couple. I have theories why it's happening. So I don't know. But you having some tea this morning? Some cold tea? Are you having some tea and crumpets? Not crumpets, but some tea? Yeah, it takes a few minutes for people to see it, I guess. Or they're still mesmerized by the last video they're watching. Yeah, who is this third person that sits in the dark and says nothing? Say something, show yourself. Anyway, in my bins, it's actually a pretty nice bin. And I don't know if I'm doing enough of what I'm about to do, but again, that's why I like doing things live. Everybody's like, make videos, make videos. I think I'm going to make a cool thumbnail. Good morning, Richard. I'm going to make cool thumbnails for these lives, but I think lives are the future, honestly. Anybody can get a video edited to make it look like whatever they want everybody to see. Fruit punch at the moment. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Everybody having a good Sunday, or is it Monday for you, Cheryl? I just love Sundays, even though tomorrow I have to work and do stuff. I'm working today too, but like, it's just Sundays are nice for some reason. I had a hard Saturday, but it was a good Saturday. Yeah, if I make it a video. Now, Drift, you know what I'm finding with the settings is that after the video, the live is made. I have like crap. I don't even know what's on my face. After the live is made, I can go back and do that clipping thing, so people can't clip. You can change the setting in there if you notice it. Hit when they're processing or after, hit edit, and then you can change that on the lives. I couldn't figure out through the studio how to make it so people can't clip it, which I think is important to get rid of. so people can't go in and clip it. Yeah, so we have a few people here. Hopefully most of us are into worms, or else it's not going to add much value. I'm going to put this bin back. This is not a feed. This is just a quick, figured I'd come on and just show my ass a little bit, right? It's nice. It's nice. A lot of people show the positives, everything working, and not like these mess ups, which aren't, to me, this isn't even a mess up. It's just something that may make, that there's not a lot of information about, which I think is interesting. Like when you go to Google it, yeah, it'll tell you whether they're really good or really bad, but essentially I'm not getting where they're coming from. How am I bringing them into my situation? And I could probably go deeper, but again, they're not causing problems. My red worm, my African red regular worms are flourishing. So I'm going to come in here and do something that's very, very light, and I don't think it's going to mess anything up really. So let me, again, I'm looking at these bins, so I don't know which bins are which. Again, it's all freestyling that I do. So this is just one of my bins in process, and I'm going to pop this back and let's see what it looks like. It may or may not have the problem. I'm still. What's cool about one of my solutions right now is that it's really not. It doesn't. I put it in there anyway, but what I haven't been doing for the last couple feedings was adding it to it. So shame on me. I had never seen these things happen before, and then I started gradually seeing them, and I think some of it was based off of me not doing one thing. All right, so let's peel this back. And this is actually not one of the bins. We do not have a problem in here. So I'm gonna put just a little bit of what I'm putting on there. I'm gonna tell you what it is in a second. You might be able to see what it is. I tried to get it even finer, but I wasn't able to. Actually, no, this is really what I want to be using. Anybody know what I'm putting on there right now? All right, just like that. The damp. This one's plenty damp. Again, if you're already going to be touching the bins, I'm going to put a little bit of water on it, which is actually could be one of the other problems, which we'll find out after I do this. It's grit. Yeah, it can be used. Drift. No, it's not DE. It can be used as grit. Some people say. I don't think it's ideal for grit after dealing with a bunch of worms. After dealing with other animals and stuff like that, grit, I think, like sand is all in my bins. I think that's a really good grit. I don't use, sand is what I use for grit. Very fine sugar sand down here. Again, this bin, I'm not marking these fed or watered. If they need a little bit of water, I'm putting a little water in there. But I'm looking for a specific problem right now, so let me jump around a little bit. All right, here's a problem. So let me see if everybody can see this. Sorry, I'm a little unorganized right now. Is it time? So, adding them fossils, no. So, Cheryl, you're right, it's eggshells. Does everybody know what eggshells, or what is everybody's take on eggshells? Now, this is one of the bins, so I'm going to peel this back, and look at that. Everybody see what's going on with this? What do we got? I'm showing you the black cover too, so you can see it. What do we got? A little bit of a smell too because of the feed. Can anybody guess? Well, it's a really good source of calcium. Yeah, eggshells is a really good source of calcium. I have organic chickens, so we grind them up. I use oyster shells for my chickens. It's a little cheaper. I'd rather use the eggshells for my. It is not mold. There might be a little bit of mold, but that's fine. If using chicken feed, that is a very common thing. It's hard to see. And I'll just tell you because you're not gonna be able to see them as clear. You should be able to see them here. Can you see these? Look at all that white stuff right there. Everybody seeing those? Look, there's a red wiggler right there trying to get out of the video. Does anybody know what all this white stuff is? It is not fungus. This is interesting because I think it can happen very easily if you don't do certain things. Now, the population can get out of control, which is what I'm seeing here. Is like I'm seeing a large population. Again, I'm not seeing a decline in my amount of worms, so I don't. And doing basic research doesn't add up to anything. It being a problem, really. But what I'm seeing, they're called pot worms. Has anybody come across that? Have you? They're called pot worms, and basically they're little translucent worms. And it's like I've looked online trying to find. It doesn't look good. Get rid of them. See, no, it's fine. Actually, they're great composters. I wouldn't. The only problem that I found with basic research, it's like the mites in your bin. And this is actually going to turn into something more pretty cool that you say stuff like that. It's like the DE. Like, I'm trying not to put chemicals and stuff into it, whether that's natural or not. I think it may have, like, doing those things I think have a negative effect towards the worms too. They're like little razor blades. Like, I don't know exactly. That's bro sciencing a little bit, but the idea of what they do to other different types of like exoskeleton, I don't know exactly what it does, but it seems pretty aggressive to me. Razor blades thrown around in here. So basic research. Okay, pot worms. Two reasons why you may have it is that you're way too wet, which I'm not way too wet. I know my moisture. It may be too wet in the beginning, but it dries out properly in most cases. And then, or is they like acidic soil. They like acidic situations. So on top of it being moist, because that's what the worms like also, my red wigglers, I think what's happening is that because I haven't been putting eggshell in the last couple weeks, that it's becoming more acidic. And I think it's becoming even more so acidic since I've been using the chicken feed. So, and that's one of the reasons why I've been talking about getting rid of it. And I've been trying to figure out how to talk about, like, I have problems in my worm bins. Oh my God. No, it's not a problem. Do basic research. It's part of the breaking down process. I've come across a couple. Yeah, you'll see them. They're very, very small. I think that the population can get out of hand, but a simple fix, my take on it, and I've had other problems that I've fixed very simply. Don't throw the kitchen sink at it. Add either lime, which I don't know anything about, really. I don't run lime. I know it drops acidity. I don't have those problems on my property because I don't have a bunch of pine. And I think oak does release acid also. But eggshells, which I already want to put in the bin, but I have been neglecting because I've just been using chicken feed. Probably not the best idea. And that's the simple way to drop the acidity, and that's why I hadn't been having any problems in the past. Never did I see anything, and now I have a problem. So you make these changes. You see a jump in my red wigglers based off of the feed because it's full of a lot of things that they enjoy and need. And when I first started doing it, I was mixing it with everything else, so I didn't see the other problem. So it's like you got to watch. You can compound. What's up, love? From what I've seen, D fills in the holes of the creatures with exoskeleton, causing them to suffocate. But definitely look it up. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like I don't want that to happen to my worms, so I don't use that stuff in here. I have a bag of it right here next to me. Never used it on any of my worms. On active worm bins, I have tried it on because it deals with mites, right? You can get rid of mites with it. I've done it on finished castings and then brought them outside on my property. And we use diatomaceous earth in certain situations. I'm not saying don't use it, but I'm trying to run a business. I'm already doing enough things to harm my own business that I'm just unintentionally. So if you intentionally do shit, you just set yourself back. I mean, if you cover these guys with diatomaceous earth and you're like, okay, somebody said to do it. Now, on the flip side, I go and do a basic Google search and eggshells. Okay, I already use eggshells. I already have a great source, a hole from my property. Beautiful. I mean, this is not a lifetime, but every time we crack eggs, we put them in the freezer, and then we do a low heat cook after we've collected a bunch of them, and then you grind them up. They actually break apart. They get glassy, and a fix to a very, it's not even a problem. And if I never said anything to anybody, no one would ever know, right? They just are part of the ecosystem. But honestly, this is getting out of hand a little bit, right? I think there's too many of them now, so I'm going to try this organic way of doing it. And you can't use too much eggshell, really. I think, for the most part, I'm not going to overdo it, but I'm using it kind of like DE, you know? So we'll put that on there. And if anything, it's maybe just going to interrupt it a little bit, not make it as prevalent in the bins. So I'm not going to be coming out to here and constantly having a large uptake or intake of these things, which that's the other thing that it comes to, is that I don't know exactly where they're coming from. So my other theory, and one of the reasons why I also don't want to I'm getting rid of the chickens, is I think that they're coming from the chicken feed. Again, never had them before. One theory, it's coming from the chicken feed, right? Makes sense. Like maybe there's eggs within that situation. But then the other one is that I'm using compost. Or did they come in with the peat moss? I mean, you start bringing all these other variables into your business, and you can lose. You got to be careful experimenting on the whole setup, right? Oh, later. 1 second. So, really, I guess the moral of the story really is be careful with how you're dealing with your bins. Like, if you have a bunch of bins, you don't need to do it to all of them. Now, eggshells is fine, right? I'm going to put some eggshells in there. I was already going to do that the next feed, make sure of it, and now we'll see what happens. You know. I don't know how to get it to go, so I really haven't had. Won't use it. But if you don't say, then get it. But if you don't say, then when we get it, then we can fix it. Yeah, exactly. I honestly, I think that if you like, how close do you get to your worm bin? Like, that's a question. The other day when I did the live, and I got one rack system of things done because I talk too much. And it's hard, I get distracted. But I went back the next morning and did all of the rest of them. And it's just like going through it, it's like I'm sitting here, I have music in my ear, and really I should be going live, but I get distracted, so it takes a lot longer. But just with like good music on, like nice in my ears, I was able to like kind of like look into the worm bins and really look closely. Like stare into them. And I'm not telling you to do it if you're just having fun with this, but if you're trying to take it to the next level, you need to kind of have an in-depth look at what you have going on in there. And it's crazy what I saw. And just, you don't have to put your face in it, but when you went from here, looking down, right, to all these micro, like to these smaller things, it's a pretty far distance to a mite, right? But when you get closer and you really start looking at it, you can see like the whole ecosystem working, like all different types of, like 10 different types of bugs running around, like an earwig coming out of over here and going down over there. It's like they're all part of the composting situation. All these bugs are meant to do something. Can they become too much? Yes, and that's where you need to step in sometimes, but just be careful what you step in with. You know, the flamethrower can really do some harm. You know, so we just got to be careful with how we deal with more. If you're doing this as a business, not only will you lose a lot of time or worms, but also you don't want to call it, like, you got to watch. The solution can sometimes be worse than the problem. You know, I think we see that a lot in this world. I'm not going to bring up any examples, but everybody probably knows. Like, sometimes you can overdo the solution and then be like, oh shit, that was actually might have been worse than what was actually happening. So, having some tea. My wife made me some green tea last night. And again, always showing my ass. And it's funny, she missed it in her head too. It's our anniversary today. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. We're going to hang out tonight. I'm going to go out and get her some. She might actually be watching right now. But yeah, so I'm going to go through a bunch of these bins. Again, I get distracted. I just feel like sometimes, like, Like I could show you an edited video or grab every good worm bin off the shelf and show you. And it's like, what good does that do if like the object of this is not just to be like, oh, Hunter's the best worm guy. He does everything right. It may come off that I sound like that sometimes because I'm trying. Like if somebody's trying at something, you can't fault them for being excited about it. Like I'm putting effort into this shit, right? And it's like, I don't want to be that perfect. I want to be like, oh, Hunter's always fucking shit up, but he's always trying to fix it too. So it's fine to break your shit. Just make sure that you have a solution or a way to try to fix it, and try not to break it. Really is the best solution. Be easy. If you have 10 bins, do it to 2 bins, 5 bins. Just appear. I think I use coconut coir sterilize, so it's clean. That's a good idea. You just got to make sure, like with that kind of stuff, Cheryl, is like always adding some. Yeah, sterile, but it's also sterile. Think about it. Like that's bedding, which bedding is feed to these worms. It's like a pantry full of food, but you don't eat all the pasta. You still need the meats and stuff coming in. So think about like if you sterilize something, then it's like them eating like something very bland every night, right? And you're probably doing fruit and stuff. Set of new ways on certain things that work. Yeah. And I think my stubbornness to, like, I think dudes are more stubborn than women. I mean, right? Like, you think you know everything. And Drift said something very, very good the other day about, like, you can learn something and then you're an expert about it. And I resonated with that. Drift, Veggies in the Front Yard. I call him Drift. But it's Veggies in the Front Yard is his page. And he did a live the other night, and it was just interesting when he said that. I'm like, yeah, that's actually real. Like, and you have to be careful with that, you know? Yeah, the Dunning. Yeah, exactly. He could probably further explain. Maybe he should further explain that in depth on his channel. But I just thought that was interesting. It's like, yeah, you got to watch that. Everybody's an expert now, right? You watch a couple videos, download all that information because I think humans, or at least this human, interacts with visual and by myself learning. Put me in a school setting, and I'm picking my nose and flicking it across the room because I'm distracted by that goofball over there. But you give me something that I'm interested in, especially, and put me by myself, I just download the information. And I try to regret, whether you download it and then able to articulate it properly, that's the big thing. Nice. So you're going to harvest the whole thing? You don't gradually harvest it? I don't have one, so I don't know exactly how it does, but you don't gradually harvest those? Or you're just going to do a big harvest on it? Nice, Cheryl. But just think, you get what I'm saying? It's like I'm bringing in a lot of other different things to the situation. You're right. Maybe sterilizing it and just controlling it for the worms might be a good way to do it. You might be right. I'm bringing a lot of already created ecosystem with bugs and all these different things. I could have brought the pot worms in from the compost pile. Simple as that. Maybe that's an idea for me. Yeah, that's a good idea for you. But what am I saying is with bedding being sterile, where the pot worms come from? Okay, so, but I don't think peat moss is sterile, or peat moss or coconut coir. I don't know what coconut coir cost you. I just think it's kind of expensive, and the way you have to buy it. Maybe if you buy it in large quantities, but even peat moss, a 3 cubic foot bundle of it, it's like 30 something bucks for organic stuff, or more, which it does go a long way. I'm not saying it, but I'm just trying to get away from having to go out to the store to get stuff. If I can figure out something and use it, I think there's a benefit. There is nothing wrong with pot worms. Stop being stubborn. Like, just figure it out. Put eggshells in your bin. Once every 3. All right, nice. I'm going to do... and Richard's going to hold me to it because I've talked about these bags before. Again, I'm looking at one right now. I still might do one, but again, I'm a copycat. What's up, Ryan? I'm going to copy Captain Matt's new idea. Because he's evolving still, right? He's looking at the bigger picture, and he's trying to make something that can be made difficult or not as efficient. It's working. But maybe I think the bins were great. I think might have seen him use him at one point, but really he wasn't pushing the bin situation. He's using it. Captain Matt is who I'm talking about. He's using them for like maybe a breeder bin, but more of a nursery bin, it seems like. So I don't know. You got to watch copying somebody right away too. So he's just, I think, recently cut the legs off his CFT situation. Is everybody tracking that? He isn't. I've never met him personally, but I mean, it's hard to fake his enthusiasm and his. He's just, yeah, he's very. He seems people that give up the information, I think, are just good people. When you're trying to really keep everything for yourself, you still have to do the work. You still have to put the time in. You can tell everybody everything. Here are all the ingredients, but if you don't take the time to understand it, you use too much of this, too much of that, you can cause problems. Yeah, we're gonna get rid of you later, bro. We're gonna get rid of these stupid questions trying to clip me for right now. Because you can't get into it anymore, so chop legs so it's below and we'll never harvest it on top again. Yeah, exactly. Oh no, he is going to harvest it he's going to harvest the whole wedge. So I mean, basically what he's doing is he's just moving the worms throughout these wedges. He's feeding into a wedge and then he's going to move them all over to the other side and then harvest that. It's a really good idea. So again, I'm always changing, and sometimes I'll think of new things while I'm talking about something else. I've already thought about this, and you can see I have my chicks still inside, which they're about to go out. It's cooling down out there, and I want to start cooling them off a little bit. But I think what I might do is, you see this underneath here, instead of doing more bins, making two of the wedge. I don't even know what he calls them. Let's call them a wedge box. I'm going to make two smaller wedge boxes that will put on wheels that will slide in and out. So I might be able to get one more shelf, and then I'm going to do two wedge boxes inside and see what happens there. What's up, Scarboo? What's up, Billy? What do you do? I do a bunch of different things. Right now we're talking about worms. I can show some worms. I know sometimes I go off on a tangent, but I was explaining something. I was showing my ass, and meaning that I wasn't literally showing my ass. Like a lot of people that are trying to start businesses, everything needs to be perfect, just showing you everything working properly. And I'm not going to be like that. When you come here, I'm going to tell you my truth. I'm going to show you my truth. Whether you find it to be true or logical or realistic in your own head, that's fine. And you can even tell me that you don't agree with me. I like that. But I'm going to show you things on my channel, whether they're good, bad, ugly, whatever. I'm going to try to show you it because I'm going to do it live. And I think the live, you can't fake it. So as far as putting it up as a video, it makes it a little bit more difficult because there's a lot more processing and stuff. But I'm going to try to just keep things as real as possible. Yeah, it's not going to grow my channel the same, but I'm not good with the videos right now. I agree. It's like I make a mistake, I say something stupid, it's done. I think a lot of that's happening in this world. The video is getting so highly edited, and it's cool to watch, it's exciting, but it's like, what value did you get from it? He only showed you exactly what he wanted you to see. And I can do that to a certain degree, even on live, but not if you're watching live, right? Like if you're paying attention to me, you're like, oh, Hunter's making sense. Oh, I like that advice. Oh, I like doing worms, but I'm making millions doing this, so maybe Hunter can just keep giving me this information, which I'm fine with being that dude about certain things. So, and everybody is that dude about something. Somebody that's pushing the envelope, that's putting the effort in. Uses leaf mold and compost with fruits and veggies with worms. Yeah. His worm chows. He's doing a lot of the right things. Again, I've been slacking on trying, like my contribution to the community, trying to get rid of waste, is not that good, right? I'm not out giving everybody a recycling bucket so I can get all their compost to the people that don't use it. I'm not doing stuff like that. Even with my wife working at a restaurant, because it's a corporate restaurant, they don't even want to play that game. It's like, what are you talking about? A bucket in our place collecting food scraps. We don't. Some corporations don't want to play that game. So even one that you would think that I would have access to, even if the manager wants it to be done and knows it should be done, he doesn't. He can't risk that because the food. There are some gray areas of getting a bunch of rotten food and then mushing it together with your hands and pouring it all over your garage. Like, you got to be careful to a certain degree. Yeah, I think it's going to come up at, like, that's what I'm thinking is that I'm going to maybe do a clickbait thumbnail for these lives. So I know live is the future. All right? Watching edited videos it's like more like a movie to me now. Like these long edits and stuff like that. You can tell that are just always like the cinematography, the B-roll, all that kind of stuff. It's like I love watching it, but maybe I'm not going to give you as much of that. You know, so if there's going to be people that I don't know so much in the worm business, but I'm not going to be that person. What's up, see ya? Yeah, I think it will make it more interesting, or it will. All right. So this bin is interesting too. Again, too much feed is really what's happening right now. Tons of worms. It's gone moldy. It's gone moldy. Worm population's fine. Again, they just keep eating. It slows their eating down when I'm not grinding up their feed. Again, learn lesson from me is grind to a dust. It works better as chow when it's a dust or a liquid. This is just, they can't keep up with the amount of feed that I gave them. And again, when you put full, what's up, Brad? When you put full bites in there, and I keep saying, oh, wetting it makes it mushy, then that's what's like it's also like filling it with water, so it's getting bigger, more, and then they're not able to keep up with it. They all look fat and happy. Again, I do see some potworms in here, so I'm just going to dust this with some eggshells. My next feeding is going to be different. I assure you that. I'm just, again, been busy with the rest of my life. And these guys can take a little abuse. They can, right? How are we doing, Brad? What are we up to? What's your deal? What are we doing today? Sunday? Yeah, Sunday live stream. That might be something. I'm going to do it more than once a week, but maybe a longer one on this day. And then, like, what I'm thinking is the live... I'm giving you all my secret sauce, the stuff I think about. You'll see, because I'm just going to bring it, I'm going to start doing it, and then you'll notice what I'm doing. So I'm not going to say what my goal is for this. This one does not. This actually has another problem, which this isn't a problem either. I'm just showing you. When people hear problem, they're like, oh my God, hunters are a goofball. But the problem is, and again, you can't see all these problems, is there's tons of mite eggs. Tons. And there's, maybe there, yeah, they're mite eggs. I think the mite eggs are coming from the chicken feed too. Imagine that, like, they're all mixed in. What's up, Leo? You need to learn from your own haste and learn to take the time to grind and crush it down. You know what to do. You have got to quit. Too quick for yourself. Yeah, I know. And you know what it is, Cheryl? Is I got so many different things going on that I'm telling you, I'm these last couple weeks. It actually started when I got cut with the chainsaw. Things have changed, and you lose weeks worth of time that you were allotting for all these different things because I couldn't move above my knee. Every time I moved, it reopened. You know, so it's like I've put other things have lapsed. I've been trying to get them back in order, and it's just like or like chicken feed in theory is fine to feed them, Don't be sorry. Dude. I'm always gonna explain why I think it, but really, you are 100% right. It's like if you're gonna tell people to do, like it doesn't always work. Do as I say, not as I do. If I'm gonna keep showing you my ass, I need to show you that I'm gonna fix things too, right? Like that can get boring too. It's like Hunter's always fucking stuff up. So I appreciate. Thank you, Brad. You have a beard too? Mustache? Got one of those like. I think when I do shave this one day in the next 20 years, when it's like out, I'm thinking I'm gonna have it out to here, right? My hair's gonna be down to here, and my beard's gonna be out to here, and then I'm gonna cut in a handlebar mustache that goes up. I mean, it's gonna be a record. No, I'm 10. Oh well, yeah. And don't try to grow a beard at that age. It doesn't. It's not good. Just taking some eggshells. Eggshells will lower the acidity in your bin. These are really clean. They were clean. I did cook them, but at a very, very low heat. I was probably trying to shave my face with those disposable razors at like 10. And that's probably, honestly, that might be why my beard's so thick. Because I always wanted a beard. A lot of young people, it's like, I specifically said this not for children to watch. And then they're way smarter. They definitely know how to bypass the system. They're all hacking the mainframe at this point. So that's another bin down. And again, I'm telling you not to do something to everything. Because that's just something to think about. Is that maybe I should, if it was anything other than eggshells, right? I would be like, be careful. Like, watch how much DE you put on. But eggshells is like one of those things that these bins are established. There's thousands of worms in some of them. Like, they're able to take a good bit of sprinkling. And I'm just kind of put it in there, and then it will just kind of absorb into the situation. And again, maybe I'm doing it wrong. I haven't had this problem before, and this is just a simple way to try to fix it. They aren't hurting the bins. So don't, if you have problems, they're like, oh, there's mites everywhere. It's like, yeah, but they're not killing the worms. So just take a deep breath and don't get a flat tire and then stab the rest of them and set the car on fire, right? That's not a good idea. Look, man, they're bad right now. I don't know what's going on. They are in plentiful. Look at this one. Completely filled. And again, I could wipe down this top thing. I don't want to do that right now. I'm just gonna sprinkle it on there. And again, it probably works as grit too, Cheryl. That's probably fine to use as grit. I think it's based off. I mean, I guess no, it's probably not that. In theory, it's just fine to use based off the cost if you're recycling it. This has a lot of them. I'm even gonna piss them off and just sprinkle some up there. The other reason for having a bunch of them could be the moisture content, which I don't think I run my bins too wet. I mean, this is a perfect consistency. You can't have better than this. It's perfect. Damp enough. I mean, they're breathing through. I think it's ideal. That bin is done. Again, I'm not using DE. I'm just putting eggshells on it. See what this one looks like. This one has some, but it's not bad. So it's almost like if I get to them before it becomes a bigger problem, hopefully I'm going to knock. I'm going to let these, so if both, okay, this is just something I'm coming up to. If two of the problems that will cause them are the acidity and the moisture, I'm going to let them dry out a little bit more and see what I can do. And then just let them eat down on the feed. What's everybody got going on today? After I'm done messing with these, I'm going out to the quail. Quail aviary's been sitting with about 10 to 12 inches of wood chips, right, as a base, because I've since harvested everything. And now I have you on I don't have it on a tripod. I have it on a vise. I have a magnet on the back of my phone, and I'm hooking on the vise that then articulates. Whoops, cancel. So this is my. I use the Northeast Worms. What's his? Can you make my life easier so I don't have to go looking for it? What's he using? What's he using? Is it it's chicken feed? So I'm gonna let them dry out, and then they come and go. Positive about that. You've always added really good information, Love to Grow. Yeah, this one has a bunch of them too. It has a ton of them. Just too acidic and maybe just too wet. So let's draw them back a little bit. There's no smell or anything, even on this feed. And this is probably more eggshell than normally I would add when I'm making the batch of feed. I'm kind of just using it as DE. Put a milky wet piece of bread, wait for a few hours. When mites on bread, put in freezer for an hour and then put back in the bin, warm to eat. Mites are a source of tick. Yeah, that's kind of why I don't mind, but that's a good idea. Maybe I'll try to do that. Milky wet, man. Milky? we don't buy milk in the house. I don't have milk. Put a milky, just a wet piece is fine? Or does it need to have milk? Are you using that to describe the wetness? Or does it have to be milk? Is everybody enjoying their cup of coffee this morning? What's everybody drinking? How does everybody drink their coffee? Black? Or do you put all the creamers and you make it a milkshake every morning? I drink my coffee black. My tea, all we put is honey in it. I just love it. She puts a little lemon in there too. But I love black coffee. Alright, that guy's done. Jackson Smith, what's up? I use milk, have tried it without 7 ingredients: eggshell, oyster shell, oatmeal, wheat flour. Yeah, that's what I'm switching back to. That's what I was using. When you start trying to find and this is why I switched to the chicken feed a little bit, because other people are using it, right? And that's, again, you're just following the herd. And it's easy to access, and it's organic. And that's where you got to watch when you start trying to find, like, wheat flour, I guess. The only thing with flour, I know it's powdered already, but is it being cooked and stuff like that? Cornmeal, yeah. So I'm already tracking that 100%. I got that from somebody else, and I have the ingredients to show you. I mean, there's other things that I would add to his. Yeah. No, I'm tracking that, Love. Thank you for the information. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I have different grains coming, organic 50-pound bags of grains, which are not that easy to find organic, large quantities of it, right? If you're feeding a lot of worms, you gotta keep up. The cornmeal, that's probably one of the mains in the chicken feed, and that's where I started seeing a lot of these things pop up, is when I started using, like, I wasn't using corn. And if you're just buying the Pride bag of corn, you got to be careful with that stuff. Corn, wheat, what they use to even just harvest those things are pretty rough chemicals. Some of what I am limited to in my head is based off of the quality of the product, right? Or at least them lying to me about the product. A lot of people are good at lying. Just a few in this one. But I appreciate it. I love it. But yeah, there's a co-op situation that delivers to farms around here. There's a message to the world. You're trying to clip me right now. That's my message, Jackson. Prove to me that you're not trying to clip me saying something profound, because I will preach. Prove to me you're not going to clip exactly what I say and then go make money off of it. How do we prove that? I have a lot of messages for this world. Some are fairly aggressive. Some can be very benign, like just let's organic wheat. So he's running organic stuff. You start getting it. Organic wheat can be pretty expensive, right? I do not do that. You can trust me. I guess one, if that is a real if that's a nice question, so I guess you're gonna get me because I'm just trying to be a good person. Not wanting. Sorry, Cheryl. I don't show you enough worms. She wants the worms. All right, so that one's done. I guess a message to the world while I'm still doing worms and not being distracted. Thanks for keeping me on track, Cheryl. Would be 1 second. When I'm not asked that question, I can spit it off the top of my head. When you put me on the spot, it's like a little bit more. Like if I use the worms to describe or give that message. Nice, Jelly. I'm about to show you something right now. If I use worms to answer that question, my message to the world would be that like there are. Just because you're told something is the way it should be, or it's been done that way, right? Like we used to use outhouses in composting, and now we use this plumbing, and everybody has to spend thousands of dollars for plumbing, right? So just because we're doing it that way, and a lot of people, even smart people, think that that's the way it should be done. It's not the only way to do things. So just because the supermarkets are filled with food and everything's happy, hunky in our worlds, right? In the UK, in Europe for the most part, United States, we Canada, we sit back and we take for granted such beautiful things that are happening, and they are happening. But I think a lot of what keeps this world moving and feeding it is detrimental to the world. Like you can get a lot of like the chemicals and all these different fertilizers and stuff that we're using are doing something good by producing food for people, right? Everybody needs to eat, right? It's harder to grow organic with a lot of the misinformation and what's happening. So we have to produce a lot of food, and they're using chemicals to do that, but at the detriment of the soil, the biology, the planet. I mean, if you use petrol-based chemicals all over the place, it degrades the earth, and then it's getting into your water and your aquifers, and then we're drinking that, and then we're harming ourselves in the back end. So it's like we're getting food, but then we're drinking the poison, right? So worms, again, trying to get back to your question, if I had the attention of the whole world, and they were like, say something, I would probably say something like, we're kind of going in the direction of like just follow the leader, and instead of just pulling the e-brake and just sit back and just enjoying the most basic things that I think keep this planet. Like if everybody was more basic and didn't long for the new car, the big house, then there would be a lot of leftover for the people that are starving, and that it's gonna become way worse for them, right? As these systems start to fail that I see happening, like just petrol-based chemicals being one of them. People, I hope, start opening their eyes to that there is a fix. We can start doing things on a more natural level. You have to get over some of these humps of like, oh, well, all the produce doesn't look perfect. Like there's these grading systems over food right now that will throw away food that doesn't look appropriate but has nothing wrong with it. Imagine that. Imagine how much food in this country is being thrown away, and then people in other countries are starving, right? Just based off of vanity. Somebody looking at something and not liking the look of it, so that's deemed trash when other people somewhere else are starving. So my message is not everything is what it seems, right? Just because it's happening that way and it's producing doesn't mean that it's helping. I think it's actually hurting, and that you can fix these problems. Like to give up on humanity would be the wrong way and you can't demonize them completely because we're part of the picture too. We're all on a cell phone right now that is made in a country that does not take care of their people, right? Or countries that don't take care of their people. They use them as a barter, really. Like, oh yeah, we can get that done for you at the cost of them. Yeah, but I think there's going to come an end to it. Like I think that farmers at this point are still able to keep up with this crazy demand, but as more is in demand, it's not like everybody could live on a bunch of different staples, but that's not how most people want to live. They want everything. What's up, big clock man? Jolly. How we doing? But yeah, does that answer your question? I love worms too. Here's another worm bin. Worm bin. Has the worms in them. A lot of them. Nice big old fat red worm. Breeding age. Happy. Right now I'm going through people that have got wonky fruits and veggies. Yeah. Ew. Ew. You don't like worms, man? Fine. I'll handle them for you. I guess I also have to watch being too hard on some people because, like, it's one thing if somebody knows something and then they don't do it, right? And then you could be like, shame on you. Like, you knew the answer. But I think there's a lot of people in this world that don't have all the information or it's being skewed before it gets to them or even just straight censored before it gets to them, right? There's a lot of censorship in this world. And I honestly, I don't think that always helps because sometimes people censor other people so that their opinion, which usually it's an opinion, will prevail. And that's not really the best way to do it. Like both sides, even sometimes at the sake of like, oh, that's not very nice to say, you should still let everybody say what they want to say. You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to be in their area. But it's a slippery slope when you stop telling people they can't say anything or certain things. Because then who's the dictation? Who dictates that? And I'm just going off on my own tangent. This is what we do, clock, if you not like me. So at the end of the day, just do some more research. There's a lot of good information out there that gives you, that will set you on good paths, right? Or don't do research and just if you don't want to do the research, just simplify. I think if you simplify, you won't have as many problems. It is. Rachel. Does anybody else have any input? Like, does anybody want to take the time and proud of it, Cheryl? You should be proud of it, girl. If Big Clock doesn't pick up on your enthusiasm to keep this place safe, then I'm fine with you. I've already told you I'm going to make you to a mod. The dog's doing all right from the surgery. Yeah, and Rachel, but you know what happens is it becomes political. Most everything becomes political, and I'm not going to discuss politics on my Worm channel, but I just think that there is right and wrong. That's what, if there wasn't wrong, there's no right. So I think we all just have to kind of find like a good middle ground in this world, right? You can't. If either side is not willing to come to the middle and figure out a good solution, we're going to continue down this path of destruction, right? Not being political at all, it doesn't matter. Like, if we continue, like a lot of scientists say, if we continue to degrade and pollute this planet, it will not be here for our kids. That's why certain places are taking such drastic measures, which I don't think, again, the solution can be worse than the problem, right? But I don't know. I think the people in charge have all the answers, and that's what scares me the most, is that the world, whoever's in charge of it right now, I can't believe that I have more good information than they do. Worms before you put them in there, a new home. I'm curious how many worms exactly you're running. I'm telling you, some of them have thousands of them in them. So I took out, I have 10 5-gallon buckets right now, and I'll do it the next time I'm going to do it, but it's probably not going to be for another week or two. I'm letting my month-old, I'm going to actually do something different. Again, I switch shit up. I'm going to come in and add a little bit more compost to each of the bins. And I don't know if you heard it the other day, is that, like, literally, they live in the top 3 inches, and if I don't need the castings right away, right? So, like, as the bins come up, I'm not going to add more until they pass the month. So I can still harvest my setup at a month if I want to. But why take the castings out from a system that is working, that I could use it to re-inoculate the next bin, which I'm going to be expanding it. I'm just not going to harvest the castings, but I'm going to get a count on the worms. And whether I'll say it, sometimes embellishment happens a little bit with people. Whether I say hundreds of thousands of worms loosely, right? It sounds sexy. There has to be some sexiness to worms. Hundreds of millions of worms. I have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of worms. I'm guaranteed on that, on God. But we do need to figure out the exact equation. Although I am seeing that with the limited amount of bedding and food, that they all eat and turn all the bedding to feed. Whether the expansion is definitely necessary if you have a surplus of worms, or because you can produce more worms. There's definitely something to 250 worms thinking that the population's not large enough, and then them start breeding more. There is something to that, but I'm getting tons of eggs in all of the bins, even when they're full with worms. So just need some reassurance at times and cutties. Yes, ma'am. For our children, for sure. Yeah, and that's what's crazy. Is like I don't even have children. I have a nephew that I grew up with me as a son, and I treated like a son as much as I could. Again, I'm not having kids for a couple different reasons, but one, if it's like, not only can I not really afford them properly in my head right now to be able to homeschool them and control a lot of the aspects I wouldn't be able to do. But yeah, the world's a scary place right now. I mean, I'm not going to talk about it. I will be talking about some of that. Just because it's called Huntersworms does not mean that I'm not going to voice my opinion about other things. If it bothers you, I'm going to try not to scare people, Cheryl. But like, I'm not going to, again, me doing lives and saying the reason why I'm doing it is also going to show you some honesty on other fronts too. And again, I think about other things also other than worms, right? I'm not just a wormer. I research a lot of politics from both sides. I don't just watch CNN, right? That would be scary to just watch one news agency. You should watch them all, and then maybe through seeing all of the theatrics, you can come up with an opinion. But just taking one person's idea or way of doing it you don't do that. Don't just listen to Hunter, obviously, right? Listen to a range of people and different opinions and different anecdotal information, and then come to a conclusion. You got to be careful, because not only will people purposely stray you to whatever direction they want, like come buy from huntersworms.com. Like, if you trust the person that you're dealing with, and they're showing you as their reality, like, that's when you want to be careful. Oh, I'm going to do this or that because it looks good, looks sexy. Like, don't be wasteful in this life. That's part of the problem too that I see, is that a lot of people are trying to find their way and they're wasting. Yeah, and I don't really watch. No, I do. I watch them all. I really do. YouTube allows you to access a lot of them very easily. So if you're utilizing YouTube to its fullest extent, you're using it for some of the news. Again, I don't. It's not my Bible. To some people, the news is their Bible. I'll listen to a whole slew of different people speaking on different subjects, right? Whether they're conservative or liberal, I still listen to a lot of different people. All right, so that's been done. I have a lot of potworms. There are a lot of potworms. Yep, this one has a lot of potworms too. Look at that one. They just kind of lounge in the side and go in and eat. They're still eating. They're eating, but they're competing, right? So that it's like the soldier fly. Please put a good word in for me. I've already prayed this morning, but Richard, thank you for doing that. Thank you for keeping, at the very least, a tradition that should exist for for the rest of eternity, right? Thank you for doing that. It's scary as you get older, and you start seeing the traditions that you grew up on dismantled and thrown away like trash. And that's how evolution works to a certain degree, except that you can evolve, you can de-evolve. De-evolution, to me, it could be maybe even considered similar to evolution. You're just going in the other direction. There's a lot of worms in this bin. So you're gonna run bins, love? Is that what you're tracking? I don't know if you're still here. This is wet. This is really wet. You're already running bins? I think the Arizona worm farm too is another good one too. He's killing it also. I don't know, just I like the green. The green is where it's at, I think. You are right. That one is good. I think almost every one of these is going to have them. It has to be the food, man. How? It's like the potworms move around on the worms, too. Super consistent amount of worms. You can see the castings big time. It's where everywhere where you dig, there are worms spread out evenly throughout this bin. Maybe you are right that it's the food having been watching the bins. Yeah, some are more wet than others. Exactly, you're exactly right about that. And I think it's right. I think the food is bringing them, pissing me off too. Because why it pisses me off the most is that like maybe my chickens are getting these stupid potworms inside them. I don't know. It's like you're trying to, and then you're getting like a bug inside of the feed. Crazy. I honestly would like just to switch them to the compost, I feel like. There's a lot of them, Cheryl. A lot of them. I'm going to probably keep this one a little bit shorter than the us because I do need to get a few things done outside. Yeah, put worms out of my CTF and putting 1,000 grams in each bin. 1,000 grams. So that's what? 28 grams in an ounce, 16. I'm not, like, this is how I measure the bedding for mine. This is my theory on the bedding, right? This one here, I don't use to scoop it, but this gives you poundage, right? And it's probably based off of feed. I don't know what it is, measures. But I use this as poundage, and then this basically fills up this, right? So this one does it in pounds and pounds. They're both pounds. This one does it in cups. I do 3 of these scoops. These are $1 from Walmart. They last pretty good. I do 3 scoops of bedding with this to what I would ideally like 250 to 500. I'm telling you, there's thousands in a lot of these bins, and they're doing just as good. Yeah, I think that's a good way to feed it. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to skin this cat. I think just until it's working for me having a lot of extra worms in here. Whether it works for everybody or not, I don't know. Am I dropping my population down a little bit right now? Yes. It's still hot down here in Florida. We're having like a heat flash, and it's one of the reasons why I haven't brought everything out. Is I don't want to go. It's 90 degrees out there sometimes right now still. Yeah, I think the breeder bins is definitely a good way. And I call it a breeder bin, but it's actually producing tons of castings and breeding. So it works well for both. If you have the space to do it, I think it's really a good way to do it. Again, just using this stuff like DE. Hopefully it's going to end up fixing it to a certain degree. And then I'm going to change the feed. Change the feed. I have nursery bins. Just a random bin. When they're feeding, they spread out. It's like they attack. You can see the line that they do. They grab some, go back. There's a lot of worms in here though, man. This one's pretty wet. I think they like this wetness though. This is a little muddy. But again, it's very still granule. Plenty of airflow. They're able to move through. It's not too wet. Some sticks in there even sometimes. I'm going to leave that in there. Usually throw them out on the ground, but yeah, this is saturated. It does have some of the pot worms. So we're going to sprinkle some of this on there. My neighbor that I work for just got very expensive pheasants. I'm going to let him borrow one of my smaller cages. I got to bring it over there in a few minutes. I got to do, it's my anniversary, so I have to go out and get something for my wife, right? So I give her everything I can, but sometimes you have to step out and do something that will just be very nice for her, right? Like spending the money on even her birthday. It's like, could it be better spent on something else? I've transcended from these. Like, I have a ton of things that I own, and now really it's just trying to keep them working, really, because everything has planned obsolescence in it. It's just everything breaks. Everything at this point. You wouldn't believe what I have to fix on a daily basis. They like it very, very, very wet. But then you got other issues, in my opinion. Yeah, you can be too wet. Definitely be too wet. but they do like it wet. Wetter than I think most people keep their bins. But yeah, so back to planned obsolescence. Everybody know what that is? So I get off that. So he got super expensive pheasants. And I have experience with birds. I keep a lot of chickens. We keep tons of quail. I have tons of them behind me. They're all still alive. But when you, like, let's just say the bird's $2,000, right? That's completely different. You have to deal with that bird completely different. Because that's a investment. Like, the only reason why you get that bird, especially a wild type bird, is because you want eggs so that you can produce more of them. But if you don't, they're more finicky. Like, quail are more finicky than chickens. I mean, they hit the wall, they jump up and land wrong, they die. Chickens fall out of a tree upside down and just walk it off. You're exactly right, Joe. That's exactly right. Even the bedding, you should change a little bit for the nursery. So yeah, I'm going to bring in one of my cages, but even around a lot of my cages, I have electric fences. So we use like pasture poultry kind of deal. Joe Salatin. Does everybody know who Joe Salatin is? Who here has dealt with Joe Salatin at all? He's a super interesting person. No one? Look him up. Joe Salatin, the chicken tractor. He's the father of a lot of different things. You should look him up. He's a super, super important person to track. Doesn't matter. It works everywhere. But yeah, you just have to be careful. It's almost like you have to treat it like an indoor bird. I feel like that expensive. But then I don't know. If it gets too cold, sometimes the quail die. Like, that's one of the things I'm going to do out there. I'm going to run an extension cord over and get a heat lamp up in my quail aviary to just give them a little area to maybe be a little warmer. But then you're running power. I mean, there's a cost to it. Or a fire hazard. Now, the vertical is very nice for space, but you got to run up and down ladders when it's this high. Man, so many times I've almost fallen off these ladders. Bad. It's probably going to be one of the last bins I'm going to do. Alright, so this bin, I don't know. Tons of worms. Consistent throughout. This is a newer bin. This bin probably only has the right amount. And they're still casting pretty good. This was made on the 23rd, so this is a newer bin. Again, I think sometimes these worms migrate from bin to bin. Sometimes some of these bins will have a lot more worms. Put some of this in there. Got a pretty good amount of bins done. But again, I'm on live right now talking about this. Sometimes it's hard to show my other stuff outside, which I'm trying to figure out as far as internet and stuff. But I'm going to start showing you other things. Like, this is just a short amount of time. I mean, a 3-hour live is pretty long, but this is just something, one of the things I want to show, and really what we're doing with a lot of these products, the castings, and that's where a lot of the gold is. Like, yeah, I can show you how I do this and the problems within this system, but then we could take it a bunch of steps farther and show you how we're using them and the success that we're having, and the non-successful things that we're doing. Like, my wife's going to start coming on. We're going to go over to the potting bench, start showing that kind of stuff too, and start turning the worms, castings, into food. Because that's the goal, right? It's not just, the goal for you could just be to have worms, but really the goal is to take the worm castings and utilize them into what is going to make us live. right? Because as a casting in a bucket or in whatever you hold it in, that doesn't feed you. So there's levels to this. You can't stop just the casting and not be able to grow food for yourself. So hopefully everybody here is just putting this building block together and to then go further with it, right? We need to start producing food. You take control of what you're putting in your body. Simple as that. Take control of it. And again, I make mistakes and do dumb shit all the time. I look at it as a dilution. If you can get 70% good stuff in you and then have a little fun with the 30%, is it better to be 100? Yeah, but life becomes a little bit more miserable when you don't want to eat out at restaurants, when you're being very strict about being clean, not just as far as the calorie intake, but really the quality of the food is what people should be looking to as clean. Most people's weight loss issues and stuff like that is because they're not eating the right nutrients and doing the right stuff. Yeah, we all do stupid shit. As I'm not really sure how to use them other than just putting them down. Yeah, so that is something that I've probably put more effort into recently. Like, again, showing my ass. Like this, the worms are existing. I have plentiful, more than enough to make business with. I do have grandeur ideas with them. I want to go big, but then some of it fizzles out a little bit because it's working. I'm able to tend to this. If I double this or do something other drastic things, then I have more work. No, not even. No, I wish I had the time to. I poke in and around randomly. Recently, the top bins have been drying out faster because it's a little warmer up there. So I do check on them more. But really, 4 or 5 days is in between each thing right now. And yeah, I don't know. What do you grow with them usually? What's up, T Mac? What do you grow with them, love? Do you have any like what brought you to worms? I guess is the question. What brought everybody to worms? It was sweet and works for us. We told the father it doesn't work. Yeah, I don't even think weight loss should be a problem. Like, it's really that you can call it the diet and like clean food, organic food is natural, right? So if you think about like trying, and organic is fake too if you're always going externally to get it, right? Because it can be faked and it can be altered. Like this potato chip's organic, but potato chips aren't the best for you, right? In moderation, maybe. So really, when you start looking at what's natural, what you can grow and what you can tend to, that's where you're going to see a lot of weight loss, right? You're going to see these changes because if you're not buying the chicken from the store and you're doing your own chickens, you're controlling the quality of the chicken. And again, with the vegetables, and too, I think a lot of people's weight loss is that there's inhibitors in these foods, all these different chemicals, all these different things that they add to it, which then cause problems with your gut biome. So a lot of people are fat, right? I feel like I'm overweight too. I'm using fat loosely, but like some of it's inflammation. Some of it's the constant inflammation and water retention from different things that you're eating, and that's why you look bigger than you are, right? And I have the same problem. I love salts and sugars, everybody does, but they're retaining and and causing inflammation, making up words. Yeah, it's what they tell you. Yeah, I do 4 to 5 days between the check, moisture, food, and yeah, I think that's a good time frame. As long as you're setting them properly, and after, like when you're getting to that routine, I would check every day, right? Until you get to that, like, okay, I can put this amount of this is too much food in here. I make mistakes every time. I'm distracted. There shouldn't be this much food. The food should be just about gone. Yeah, same. I think the castings work. Now, does every plant respond well to casting? I don't know if it's the castings. Down here in Florida, we're very wet. So, like, I think some of my problems with some of the plants was airflow and drying out properly, right? Just using compost as your dirt, right? Like we haven't bought any dirt. We're selling thousands of plants a year right now, and we are able to sustain that by bringing in perlite. We do buy perlite still because I can't, other than using rocks, which I'd still have to buy anyway, and they're harder and heavier to move. Perlite is one thing that we're bringing in. So if my soil mix is 50, it used to be 50% compost, 25% perlite, but I switched them basically, right? So now we're doing 50% perlite when we make our mixes. So, and I'm going to show all this. We use black bins, and then we harvest compost at 1/4 inch, which is fine enough for the most part. It works well for us. And then we're doing like 25, maybe 30% compost to, let's say, 40 to 45, 50% perlite to be loose on it, because it's very, that doesn't have to be exact equation. You can't use too much perlite really, as long as you're adding more organic or feed and stuff like that to it with the castings. We have the wetness probably here in UK, and yes. Yeah, perlite is super important. It really is. Or vermiculite is a good one. And vermiculite may be better in the scheme of things because it breaks down to silicate, I think. Silicate, which is super necessary for it's like something that a lot of people are missing in their gardens. So vermiculite, there's something to that also. Me trying to find that, I've struggled trying to find it in the amount that I want for the price. Again, some of this, it comes down to the price. For a 3 cubic foot bag of perlite, it's like $40, you know, and it's reusable to a certain degree. We recycle our soil. Let's get to you watching Captain Matt. It took me 1 year before I could start harvesting from there. Now I can harvest every 3 weeks. I need to build more. Yeah. And you want to sell it, or are you just producing for yourself? Are you producing to produce another product, or just is worms and castings, like is castings the product that you want to produce from all this? So I have a theory on that too. All right, so this one's done. Put the eggshells in there. Plenty damp. This is a 1023. I'm going to show one more bin before I go. And maybe I'll do another live another time. Change to remember that as it's 5 more but easier to get. That's cool. How much are you buying at a time, Cheryl? Whoa. Sorry, Cheryl. Took you for a ride. This is an interesting bin. Lots of worms in this one. Tons of potworms. This is my last bin. This looks nice though. The next video I do is not going to be in here. It's going to be somewhere else showing something else. So back to that, like being healthy and stuff like that, which I think is something that I want to promote on here too. And is one thing is fitness, right? Fitness goes a long way. Like it helps with metabolizing what you're putting in your body. So fitness is like up there. Obviously, good food is pretty high on the spectrum. 100 liters at a time. For how much? So health and fitness is going to be part of this journey, because worms actually came from me trying to produce the highest quality food because I wasn't feeling well. I had stomach issues, which the biology of the worms is super important too. So health or fitness is one, and then healthy food, right, is connected to these also, because you're going to hopefully use it to produce high quality food. That should be the goal. If your only goal is to just create a bunch of castings to then sell, I think that the connection with it should be more than that, but whatever. And then water. Honestly, the majority of this world is running around dehydrated, like moronically. And I do it the same. Is that people need to start realizing that not only and electrolytes and stuff like that needs to be part of the regime also, but just actually drinking some liquid water and getting used to doing this and becoming a habit again for a lot of people. I think a lot of people are walking around dehydrated. 1 bottle a day, 2 bottles a day. I'm fine. No, your body needs more water. It's a high percentage of water. Now, it doesn't translate from liquid, I don't think, as so there's some things that you need to do and some nutrients and stuff that you need to bring into the situation also. Electrolytes, amino acids, I think, have something to do with it also. Yeah, but at least you're doing 2,000 steps. That's something. Um, yeah, I think you should push through it. After speaking to you many times now, Cheryl, and I get you tell us that what you tell us what you're dealing with, and that's fine. Um, but if you can acknowledge things, I can tell that you're very intelligent. So put the effort into it. It's going to help pay off. Like autism isn't a wall from having the same issues as everybody else. So if you can at least acknowledge those things, you may have to try 1,000 million times harder in order to achieve them, but you're acknowledging them and you're talking about them. So that's back to that. If you know this good solutions to this and then you choose not to, that's on you. But you're not everything that can happen to everybody else can happen to you. So I I know it's more difficult, but you need to push through it and get it done, honestly. And 4 or 5 liters a day is what's that? 3.8 liters in a gallon. So you're drinking a gallon of water. That's good. If you're drinking that much water, that's good. Oh, well, and that's something I don't have that much experience with, so I'm not going to talk about. Roger that. You keep up the good work, girl. I don't want to sell gas tank at the flea markets, but it'd be cool to see other people make some sales. Get the word out there. Yeah, I'm kind of like, this is my theory on it, is the byproduct is castings now, right? It's an amazing byproduct. I want people to grow their own worms. We can, like, I almost want to not use the system that I have behind me. I think veggies in the front yard is going to show and prove more things with his setup that is put together with just the most basic things that you have is what it looks like right now. He's going to evolve it, and make it work. Like, can you just have a shoe bin worth of worms that produces enough castings every month to then do a feed every month, right? I think that would be something very noble to come from this, is that, you're going to make money off worms, but the idea is to get them to be able to produce their own fertilizer, soil conditioner, right? And then modify it with the tea, because the tea is everything. I mean, the tea changes not only how it's distributed and how much you have to use, but really, if you don't mix it in right, you can degrade it by the sun hitting it and drying out. The tea really helps it if you do it right. Now, you can fuck the tea up too. You gotta watch using chlorinated water. I have sulfur bacteria in my water, so we off gas that also. Aeration will do that also. So you should aerate your water before to get rid of the chlorine and the sulfur. Keep doing what you do, Cheryl. If you're happy at the end of the day, that means you're probably doing things right. If you're not happy and you feel weird at the end of the day, then maybe adjust a little bit, And I know dealing with medicines and stuff like that, even if you do everything right, you still might not feel well at the end of the day, because they can adjust. But you're doing something good with the worms. You need to use tea, Cheryl. You need to use tea. I can give you a good okay, so a very basic recipe is what is it? Again, I just use a scooper. 4 scoops to 2 tablespoons of organic, unsulfured molasses, clean water. that's been off-gassed of all the chemicals, right? So it really it matters the dilution you want to do. So you could do 10 scoops of depending on the amount of air you're making it in. Like you can overstimulate too much microbiology and cause a problem. They'll run out of molasses to eat because that's really what you're doing with oxygen and sugar. Essentially, you are feeding the microbes and turning them into not only more abundant, but having more abundance of them, but you're like superfying them to a certain degree. And then from there, you can add other things. You need to be careful on how you add them and what you add, but you can make it more specific to whatever you want to feed. So if you do 2 of these scoops, 2 tablespoons of molasses, it'll be less potent. So 2 big scoops, and you can do it in 2 different ways. You can put the castings directly into the bucket, right? Or you can put them into a bag. This here, for liters, this is 1,000 milliliters, right? There you go. There's your 1,000 milliliters, or 1 liter. So do 4 of these, right? You're not going to burn your plants even with 4 of these. And then you need to get unsulfured molasses. It needs to be unsulfured organic molasses. And then oxygen. So you need to get an aeration. You know what like a fish tank pump is, Cheryl? There are bigger systems which, if you're making a lot of it, you need to do like a one of my next projects one day will be I already have the totes. I'm gonna make a big it's not volcano. You basically use PVC and it comes from below. It's pretty cool. You got a pump? So yeah, you just use the pump, aeration, and between 16 and 24 hours, depending on the material also, you can get more of a bacterial or fungal tea. You have to plug it into the wall, and then you run the air line to a stone, which then adds oxygen to the water. Again, harvest the water in a 5-gallon bucket. This is all based off of a 5-gallon bucket. And then put the aeration in there overnight without anything else in there. And then you can use a bag first if you want, and then you just put the castings in a bag, and you just it's like a tea bag in there, and you sit it in there, tie it off. I like to pour it in there, and then if you're not going to put it through a sprayer, you can just pour it all out into the plants and use like a cup, the same cup, and just do like a drench method, right? And you can and then you can dilute it. If you do 4 scoops of these, you can dilute it to 2 buckets and spread it out even further, because you're not really using that one as a fertilizer. You're trying to get the biology in and around your plants right away, fast. So, are we tracking on that? We're gonna show that too. It's up by my potting bench, my setup. Makes sense, cool. Yeah, it's pretty easy. Once you get used to it, you can... Okay, so 2 things is that it has to be used right away. I have taken it over 24 hours. Most of the time, I think you're making a bacterial load. It's hard to achieve a fungal load in gardening right now, and I think that's what a lot of the experts are saying is very important, but it's harder to achieve. I think one of the ways that I'm achieving it right now is how much wood chips I'm bringing in. I'm bringing a fungal load in with the wood chips. They are attracted to it. Yeah, I'll show it in the next couple weeks. Next week, we already have a bunch of them up top. But I'm gonna get off. I appreciate everybody watching. Thank you for sticking around. Hopefully I said something that made sense. If not, why are you watching? Appreciate y'all, honestly. If you need to get a hold of me, you can check me out at huntersworms.com. Not as a sales pitch, but there's a chat menu in the bottom, and just shoot me a chat. You too, girl. I hope everything that you have going on works out for you. All right? Appreciate your time. Take it easy, guys. Girls, see ya.